Okay, ladies and gentlemen, welcome again to this channel. So, the government is trying to solve some problems that is affecting us as Kenyans. Most most of the problem is our tax. They are saying the tax, not the tax, but the debt that we owe other countries and other nations out there. Our tax, our debt as at now is standing at around 9 trillion or thereabout. So it is really an alarming issue, and it is really hard to understand that our debt is constantly rising. Our debt is constantly accumulating, yet in any financial year that the government always read the budget, there is always provision for a certain amount, which is always close to 30% of the total budget that is going to pay for previous debts. Yeah. So that's when you see like last time, and more often than not, you get that the analysts and some economic experts have been constantly saying that we have always been paying tax, yet we have been paying back our debts, but it is not really clear if the government is always deducting this amount, yeah, from the our debt book. Because for instance, this year's budget, I think they have allocated almost 700 billion to loan repayment. And again, the budget is around 700 billion deficit. It is going to comparing what the total budget, what KRA is mandated to collect, what KRA is mandated to collect vis-a-vis the total budget, we still run short of around 700 billion in this 2023-2024 financial budget. So here is a situation where the government is trying to do a thing that trying to solve this debt budget while creating more debt. It's like you are still in the hole and still digging. Yeah, if they were honest, if they were really honest, there was some previously around 3 months ago, 4 months ago, the government was here and initiated a government to government payment of importation of oil. They entered into an agreement with the Saudi Arabia company to import oil with sole reason, yeah, that we would avoid paying for this, then we pay them later. This means that the dollar that we were supposed to be using to pay this debt will be available locally in the country, and we may use this one to source other basic goods and services. And now this was expected to bring the cost of living down, yeah, because there will be more dollar in the market. But as you can see, when the government entered into that bilateral talk with the Saudi companies, and they began importing the petroleum and everything like that, the dollar, comparing the dollar to Kenyan shillings, the Kenyan shilling has been constantly depreciating, yeah, when our beloved president, Mr. William Ruto, got into power, the dollar was around 108, 112. As at now, it is going, and it is, I think it is at 140. And it is projected in the next 4 to 5 months, the dollar will always, the dollar is going to appreciate compared to Kenyan shillings. Yeah? So there are tough times ahead. Yeah? Because, if the government could want to take us out of this problem, they do say constantly and every day that either they tax us to our grave so that we can pay for this debt that is burdening us, so that tomorrow we'll be free, or going to dig more hole in borrowing from other countries and other multilateral financial organization to come and finance their project. But this is a government that you get, they are doing both. And as at now, there is a bill in parliament to raise our debt ceiling to over $10 trillion. So we are overtaxed, they are borrowing more, and they are repaying more. So this is just like doing nothing, while the cost of living is constantly rising. So today it is just on a lighter note. Yeah? I just want to tell you why all this initiative that this government is trying to put in place cannot and will never work in any way to solve the Kenyan problem of high cost of living and all that. One thing is, let us check the Kenyan shillings, comparing it to dollar and everything, but focusing on Kenyan shillings, on its purchasing power. Yeah, all the citizen and everybody wants is to return the purchasing power of our Kenyan shillings. Previous months and last durations, like a year or 2 years ago, if you compare what 1,000 shillings could purchase, and as at this time, yeah, this is totally different. The inflation has almost doubled in less than a year. Yeah, for example, me last year we were buying sugar, 1 kg of sugar, at around 110, 120. That is around April, May, June last year. 110, 100. As at now, the same sugar is 245. Yeah, or thereabouts. Now imagine, that is a more than a double inflation. So when the purchasing power of shillings is so much reduced to that extent, the shillings becomes so much useless, and stocking of as much, you really need to have 100 shillings, go purchase a thing, and this thing can afford to purchase so many things. Yeah, not this situation that a shillings is really worthless. If you have 1,000 now, it's like in last year it's like 300 shillings. So the only way to solve the problem of cost of living for this government is to return the purchasing power of money to the pockets of its citizens, in that they should try any way possible to bring down the prices of general goods and basic goods and services. Prices of food, transport, and all that must always remain down, so that even our shillings can be strong, yeah, so that people have that real purchasing power to buy good. That is what we just giving us back, that purchasing power, the high value of money. That is one of the things that these people should always look into in doing so. Another thing is interest rates. The only three things I've just chose to discuss, three things. There is interest rate, and interest rates of account of anyway, interest rates, if you did finance or anything, interest rates is always about the risk. Interest rate is equated to risk. For example, if I'm the lender borrowing you money, I want to give you money, I have 100,000. I have to assess you, how well can you pay this, or how easy can you pay back this amount. So if it is so risky that if I give you the money, then the chances of you returning this money is so slim, then my interest rate must always be high. But if I'm 100% sure, or I'm more sure that you're going to pay this money back, then the interest rate must be low. Go to any bank now, or these financial lending institutions, even the mobile lending institution nowadays, there are so many. The interest rate has really grown up. This means these people are just giving you their money, but they are not 100% sure that you'll return their money. Yeah, so that makes borrowing so much costly. Yeah, and you know, it is really hard to develop purely with your savings and the money and everything like that. You really need to, at one point, at least borrow some money to finance your project. So here is a situation where you go to borrow 1 million, then interest is 30%. In a year, you pay 300,000 on top. That is so much, and this one will always deter development in a country in any way, because people, if I can't afford to borrow due to interest rate, I'll just avoid. People will just be like, why should I borrow if I have to pay such a high rate? So there is no development, there is no money flowing in the country and everything. And the banks will always really need to sell at that particular time, because that is when they will be having so much profit, big, and there will be no people willing to buy this thing. So this one will really create an economic imbalance. So this is another area that this regime and government should look at. Then there is something called dollar market, or the exchange rate. Yeah, just generally the exchange rate. Nowadays, there is a simple maths that everyone overlooks, but it is one of the things that is affecting us so much as a country. Yeah, you get, for example, the Eurobond. The Eurobond was 700 billion 700 billion Kenyan shillings, yeah, that we borrowed. So I just want to use just a typical example. A typical example is if you borrow $100, if this government borrowed $100 in 2013, borrowed $100 in 20, let's put it at 2015. During this time, $1 was equivalent to 100 Kenyan shillings. So if you borrowed $100, that was equal to 10,000 Kenyan shillings at that particular time. Then there is another thing. If you borrow, obviously there is an interest rate. Let's take an interest rate to be 5%, yeah, 5%. So 5% of $100, that is just 5. So we are expected to pay by the end of whatever year. Let's just give it 1 year. By the end of 1 year, we should pay 105 Kenyan shillings. Let's put it at 5 years. We should pay $105 as a country. Then remember, during this time there is inflation, and when we are repaying our debt, we can only repay them back in dollars. We can't use Kenyan shillings to repay our debt. So here is a situation where you get let's say when we borrowed, this thing was 2015. Now 5 years later, 2020, in 2015 $1 was equal to 100 Kenyan shillings. Then in 2020, $1 is equal to $1 is equivalent to 120 Kenyan shillings. And you know we have to repay our debts in dollars. So during this time we'll need 120 times 105, yeah, 120 times 105 to pay our 120 times 105. Let me do that maths. Let me do the maths really quick. 120, that is the dollar, and our total amount of loan that we should pay is 105. So 120 times 105, that is 12,600. 12,600. That is we are paying 12,600 at that particular time. But if there would be no change in the dollar amount, there would be no depreciation in Kenyan shillings, and we could have paid 100, which was $1 equal to 100 shillings, Kenyan shillings, times 105, that is 10,500. This is 2,100 Kenyan shillings, which is called debt servicing. Yeah, that is debt servicing. So in short, my people, if there is a fluctuation in our currency, mostly on the negative side compared to the dollar and some superior currencies, we will tend to repay our loans with more amount than we should pay. So this is another thing that the government must always check. The minute you are increasing the prices of goods and everything like that, removing that purchasing power, the real purchasing power from the pockets of the citizens, just know you are not doing that simple thing. You are also doing something called, you are weakening the currency of that country, And when you weaken the currency, weakening the currency of that country, and when you weaken the currency, there is inflation. When inflation spikes up, then when you need to repay your debt, you'll need more amount to pay. On top of interest rate, you'll need so much amount to do your debt servicing. For example, the previous budget, we have around 300, I think 360 something thousand to do the 365,000 just for the debt servicing, which is not good as for us as Kenyans. Thank you, and God bless you.